Dear students in grade 10, hello, I hope you're doing well. Today, inshallah, we're going to cover a new lesson in world history. We are now covering chapter 13 titled The Early Middle Ages. Here we're talking about world history and the Western Europe, specifically the period of time 800 to 1215. So you can find this chapter in your textbook in page 373. So we're taking today the first section, which is titled Charlemagne's Empire. We'll know now who was Charlemagne, how he became an emperor for this empire, and so on. Again, we're talking about Western Europe. So as for the main idea we used to discuss in our classes, he says here, throughout conquest and social change, Charlemagne tied much of Western Europe together in a single empire. So we'll know who is Chamberlain, how he made like conquest and social change as two main elements to enrich his empire and to unify people in Western Europe. We're going also to discuss the two questions and like the information that can be an answer to these two questions. The first one is, how did Charlemagne and Carolingians build the French Empire? We're going to know who are the Carolingians and the French Empire. Also, we have another question, which is, how did Charlemagne's actions contribute to shaping a new society? So let's go to the first slide today. So as for building an empire, we had a powerful kingdom called Charlemagne Empire or Charlemagne Kingdom. And we're talking about that his crowning as an empire was not a surprise. Uh, it was a surprise actually, but it wasn't a random decision. People were surprised that he became a leader for this empire in Western Europe, but it wasn't random decision. We're going to cover how he was like titled to be the emperor. His predecessors, um, the kings of the Franks, and Franks here, we mention these words to mention leaders of countries which are now Germany, France, and Luxembourg. So the previous kings in this Franks area, they worked for 200 years to make the kingdom most powerful in Europe. Okay, so um, by 800, the Franks ruled much of Western and Central Europe, as we said. The leaders most influential, they were so effective in expansion of the Franks, like invading other places and so on. All belonged to one family, so the Franks people belonged to one family, and this one family was called Charlemagne's family, which is called Carolingians. Okay, who were the early Carolingians or the first leaders of this family? So the first one was Charlemagne's grandfather, and he was a great warrior. So here, his name was called Charles Martel. He was the grandfather of Charlemagne's. Charlemagne was his grandfather. Actually, he was not a king, but he was a political advisor. He was also a war leader for the kings. Okay, so what was his role? He led the French army in many crushing defeats of their opponents, most notably the Muslims from Spain. So he was able to beat Muslims. Again, we have some points in the book that only expresses the point of view of the writer who used to say this inside class. Sometimes they say Muslim invaders and so on. This is only their point of view. We also just express our point of view, and so on. So he led the French army in many crushing defeats of opponents, notably Muslims in Spain. Okay, so then we had the father of Charlemagne, and he was called Pippin III. He was also a skilled leader. He won many battles, captured new lands from the Franks, for the Franks. But unlike his father, the grandfather of Charlemagne, he became a king. Pippin became a king, the first king of the Carolingian dynasty, and this was in 751. That's great. So he became a leader, and he made some great changes for the Carolingian dynasty, and he became the first king, as we said earlier. But when he died, um, the throne went to his child, Charlemagne. So this was in 768, and the role passed to his son, and he was called Charlemagne. Actually, Charlemagne is a French word. It means Charles the Great. Um, as you think here of the name Charles the Great, was he a great to be called this name? Was he a great leader and so on? Yes, the name proved accurate. He made some great achievements that he can be called Charles the Great. He was also a great leader. For example, okay, so historically he was considered one of the most important leaders in Europe in the European history, and he set the foundation of success through the military power. And this is actually the main point that we said even in the first semester, in the second semester. We said that whenever you are a leader and you need to get a well-established country, you think of organizing the army. So how was this happening? So he started with the military power. He started to gather the army each year, form them, train them, give them trainings and weapons and so on. And then he led battle against a foe. Foe here means an enemy. So he started to choose an enemy and then go and invade them. And after he actually invading the enemy, he added the land of the vanquished or the defeated foe, the enemy, into the sphere or the frame of his influence. And again, after this, he formed alliances with local rulers so that he can keep this new place established. In this way, Charlemagne increased the size and power of Carolingian kingdom. Later, he knew the Pope Leo III, who was the Pope. The Pope recognized Charlemagne's skill, and he called him for help when the Lombards attacked Papal states in 774. What is Lombards? Who are the Lombards? And what does it mean, Papal states? This is what we can show here, what we can see here actually. If we share this page, we have here, of course, the Franks, and here we have um, the Lombards. He's telling us that here the Lombards were a Germanic people who ruled most of the Italian peninsula from 568 to 774. So back again to our presentation, Pope Leo III, um, he asked the help of Charlemagne as a great leader and famous one. He asked him to defend the Papal States from the Lombards. So what's Papal State? Again, if we go back, we can see that the Papal State is a kind of states that is affiliated to the Pope, like under the control of the Pope. So, for example, here it says officially the state of the church, but we can say also it were the state were a series of territories in the Italian peninsula under direct sovereign rule of the Pope from the 8th century to whatever we can like have the dates and so on. So do you think that Charlemagne will assess the Pope or not? Yes, of course. Here again, Papal States, a region in central Italy under control of Pope. The Franks, under the rule of Charlemagne, they defeated the Lombards, and Charlemagne became a king of Lombards as well as Franks. So this was something known for Charlemagne. Whenever he conquered a place, he put them again under his control. Now, helping of the Pope, the Pope like had another problem, and then he will ask again the help for from Charlemagne. He was very grateful. The Pope Leo III was grateful for Charlemagne's help against Lombards when he just freed the 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 states out of the Lombards. And in 1799, as a sign of grateful, as we said earlier, he called on Charlemagne again when angry supporters of previous Pope ran Leo out of Rome. Now we have a trial of throwing Pope Leo out of his chair, if we may say, and Charlemagne had Leo escorted back to Rome, restored to power. Here we say that some people who were supporting the previous Pope just threw him out of his position, but when he asked Charlemagne's help, Charlemagne went back to the state and just he followed him back to Rome and he made him a king. The Pope was so like appreciative for Charlemagne's services and he thanked him by naming him Emperor of the Roman Empire. So this was great to be called Emperor of the Roman Empire. Now you're restoring the old successes and so on. This title implied Charlemagne had restored, as we said earlier, glory from Roman Empire in Europe. Here we say that Pope's action suggested that Charlemagne's rule had backing of Church, which is God. So here the Pope, as we mentioned, like in some classes in first semester and second one, people usually consider the Pope or the priests like gods on earth. They are the connection between gods in sky or in the heaven and the people on earth. So if you have someone like Charlemagne being a leader under the recommendation of Pope, now God himself is supporting him and backing him. Okay, how was the role of Charlemagne? Was he powerful leader? Was he weak leader and so on? Of course, he was a great leader and he had a tremendous power as an emperor. So, how he was a tremendous power, or how he had tremendous power as an emperor? In his rule, the empire was so large, you're controlling almost Western and Central Europe, all the countries in this area. So it's not that easy for you to rule. However, he made some changes for the government that made him actually great leader. Okay, so here we have delegating authority. We know the meaning of authority, which is power, but delegation, what do you mean by this? Delegation means like many meanings, but one of the definitions is to give some of your authorities to another person. So how he did so, we will know just from this line, but here we mentioned that he built a huge palace, Western and Central Europe, and he also built a cathedral to reflect his own greatness, either the palace or the cathedral. If you check the definition of cathedral in dictionary, you will find that cathedral means like a great cathedral in a public area which governs or just supervises other small churches in small areas. So, as a sign of delegating or authorizing other people to join him the rule, he chose people called counts. Count is a kind of title like duke and so on. So this was for noblemen. So they were officials. Their task was to help rule parts of the empire in his name. What does it mean to help rule parts of the empire in his name? He is the emperor, but they are serving as leaders in small areas and then following his orders and so on. They bound to obey, like they swear that they are not going to be disloyal to them. They should be loyal. And in return for this is not for free to obey him, but he granted them large tracts of land, large pieces of land they own it, and he gave them much authority. Okay, was this only like this? Yes, I'm bringing you, giving you lands, and you just be loyal for me and you govern your places. But how can he guarantee that all of them would be loyal? All of them would like um, respect his orders and so on. He applied what's called oversight, which is bringing other inspectors, people who go like either secretly or publicly, and they kept tabs on Charlemagne's counts. If you have Longman Dictionary, let's show it here. If you just write down the word tab here, tab, and then you go back in the definitions, we have many definitions, of course. So let's go down. Yes, number 7 here is saying keep close tabs on somebody or something. This is an expression, informal expression, and it means to watch someone or something carefully to check what they are doing. We have the example here, but the example can be in our slide as we said. So he brought inspectors to see or oversee to um, check how the counts are doing and so on. When the inspectors just go to certain place and then check the counts, if the counts are working hard, they are just doing great job obeying the orders of the Charlemagne and so on, they are going to be rewarded. And if they didn't do, they are punished and receiving some kind of punishment. Inspectors helped ensure counts remained loyal and the empire was well run. Why? Because we have many people governing, and like the counts are like respecting the orders of Charlemagne. Charlemagne also hiring inspectors to oversee the counts. And so let's summarize now this question and have this answer. How did Charlemagne turn his kingdom into an empire? He was a strong warrior. He was able to organize army and invade a place once each year, and then bring this place under his rule. He also helped the Pope, which is Pope Leo III. He restored him to power when the supporters of the previous Pope just threw him. He also provided stability and order and so on. Then, how he as a leader now, we need to cover him as a leader. How was he? So, he was known for being a warrior, as we mentioned earlier, and he was also a political leader. He didn't just feel enough with this, he also made sweeping changes in the French society. Again, French here means countries which are now Germany, France, and Luxembourg. So, as a society, the main points you can work on, of course, you may think that they are education, maybe the laws, maybe health, many ideas, and so on. In education, he himself was interested in learning. He spent much time studying, just going to the library, bringing books either from written in Europe and written outside Europe, and so on. He felt it's not enough for him as a leader to be educated. His following leaders also should be educated. So they should be able to read and write. That's why he asked the churches to set teachers, especially priests and like people who work in church. He like asked them to start to teach them monasteries. What did they study there? They studied some subjects like religion, Christianity, of course, music, and they also studied grammar, but it's not that grammar we have today. Anyway, so if you are a leader and you want your following leaders should be educated and yourself be educated, you have this kind of great money and great place. Of course, you're going to bring noted European scholars. You're going to ask for the famous teachers all over the world, at least all over Europe, to come to you. So he brought them to Aachen, and Aachen is a city now in Germany, and it was a place from which Charlemagne was governing. So they spent time teaching and learning and studying and so on, and they also started copying ancient texts just to save them, to record them, to be saved for future. So the saved copies, um, it was actually available. It was some kind of valuable works for prosperity. It tells about the greatness of this empire as well. Of course, religion, one of the points that we covered or that he just thought of. So he adopted Christianity, of course, and he wanted to make this link between the church and between him as a leader. So he worked closely with the church to create a unified Christian empire. Even after being like a leader and then working with the Christian church and so on, having a Christian empire, he forced the people who invade them and order them to convert to Christianity under the penalty of death. What does it mean? It means I'm invading your country. I'm the powerful. I'll be the leader. You're going to follow me. Either to adapt Christianity or I'm going to kill you. You are forced and you're obliged to do this. Of course, here we have this verse. I have to show it to you from the Holy Quran, which is there is no compulsion in religion. لا إكراه في الدين. There is no compulsion in religion. Truly, the right way has become clearly distinct from error. So, in Islam, we do not force anyone to join our religion. You're welcome to join it, and you're welcome not to join it. We're just calling you with respect, with wise, and you have the choice. Let's get back. So he sent monks to live among conquered places to help Christianity take root. What does it mean? I invaded a place. I sent my monks, the priests, the religious men, to go to back to this place to tell people how to join Christianity, how to adapt it, what are the teachings of Christianity, and so on. Almost the last 2 points we're going to cover today, which are the law and the great heights. So in the law, he honored and respected the traditional law that each tribe had. He brought them under his rule and so on. So most laws existed only in oral tradition. What does it mean? It wasn't written one. It was only like people say, we're applying this, we're not applying this. If you steal, for example, we're going to do so. Your punishment will be so and so. If you kill someone, your punishment will be so and so. This was orally spoken one. And also he had many tribal laws recorded, and he allowed tribal legal codes. Again, we said code earlier, like in other lessons, we said code is a group of laws. He like made or allowed the legal codes to maintain separate systems. In Western Europe, he reached great heights under Charlemagne. He was a great leader, as we mentioned, and the empire didn't survive long after his death. Again, what is the consequences, or let's say, what are the consequences of a leader death, a great leader death? Of course, as we said earlier, like the other leaders or the next leaders will get into disagreements and then start to fight each other, the empire weakened, and then the invaders poured in, start to come to your country. So now, what are the achievements of Charlemagne? Can you just tell me? Let's say, for example, the first one, in politics, what did he do? Exactly. He unified the Europe for the first time since the fall of Rome. Okay, what about education? Exactly. He built schools and he preserved ancient writings. Last one, which is religion. Do you remember? Yes, he spread Christianity among the conquered people. The last one will be law, and he developed a written legal code. Last question with us now saying, how did Charlemagne change society into his empire? In this question, we're talking about society in general, which contains the above mentioned points. Let's check the answer, which is he built an education system, like he himself tried to be learned and educated, and he brings scholars to teach the people in church and the monasteries and so on. He preserved ancient writings through people who scholars from Europe who write the greatness of this empire. He also expanded religion, brought people under Christianity either by force or being guides, and he developed a single law. Thank you so much for being that patient to listen to this audio. Inshallah, in the live session, we're going to have some kind of discussions and more questions. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much and see you very soon. Goodbye.